Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the launch of Project deSHAME resources. It's great that you've been able to join us. My name is Will Gardner. I'm the CEO at Childnet International and a director of the UK Safe Internet Centre. Now, I'm sure some people will be joining us over the course of over the next few minutes, but we've got such a busy schedule in this next hour that I'm keen that we start off promptly. And I just want to first of all say welcome. Great that you're all here, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're having a conversation today about online sexual bullying and harassment. And it seems that given the focus in the media at the moment and the testimonials that we are seeing coming from children and young people that are being posted online at Everyone's Invited, then I think this is it just emphasizes the importance of having this conversation. And I'm really pleased that we are having this conversation here this morning. Just to set a little bit of background to firstly what's going to happen today, we're going to hear from me and then from Minister Vicky Ford and then Rebecca Stimson from Facebook. And then we're going to hear from some young people who are part of our Youth Advisory Board. And then my colleagues are going to share with you some of the resources that we've developed to try and tackle and prevent the issues around online sexual bullying and harassment before hopefully we'll still have time for Q&A at the end. So first off, why are we looking at this topic at all? And this actually stems back a few years when at Childnet we were working to develop some guidance for schools on preventing and responding to cyberbullying. And we were running focus groups in different schools. And one of the issues which kept coming up in the conversations with children and young people was the sharing of images and comments and content of a sexualized nature. And this is between peers, between young people. They get posted online, they'll be connected to a local community, and it would attract a sexual commentary. And the young people in the groups we were talking said that we would not talk about this issue with others, with parents and carers, with teachers or others. And we were concerned by that. And then we were talking to our partners in the UK Safer Internet Centre, the Professionals Online Safety Helpline, and they were also talking about getting calls from professionals working with children about this same type of issue. So we decided that we needed to look closer, and we formed a project called Project deSHAME, which we've been running with Save the Children in Denmark, with Kekvanal, an NGO in Hungary, and the University of Central Lancashire. And this project is 80% EU funded, and Facebook, who are actually helping us to host this call, have provided the remaining 20% funding for this project in the UK, in Denmark, and in Hungary. So that's what we started to do. So the first part of the project, we focused on teenagers, 13 to 17-year-olds, and to just so kind of clear on what we're talking about, we defined online sexual harassment during this work as unwanted sexual conduct on any digital platform, which is recognized as a form of sexual violence. It encompasses a wide range of behaviors that use digital content on a variety of different platforms. It can make a person feel threatened, exploited, coerced, humiliated, upset, sexualized, or discriminated against. And here, as again, we're specifically focused on online sexual bullying and harassment between children and young people. So we did quant and qual research during the course of that project. I did focus group work with stakeholders and interviews, and we developed a toolkit which is there for educators to help talk about these issues in schools. But we also have a guide for senior management at schools, a guide for law enforcement. So we've really taken a holistic approach to doing this. And there is this toolkit called Step Up, Speak Up. And in the course of the research, we broke online sexual harassment down into 4 key areas: the non-consensual sharing of intimate images, as well as the non-consensual taking of such content, exploitation, coercion, and threats. 10% of the young people in the UK said that they had received sexual threats from people in their peer group in the last year, and 29% had witnessed that happening. The third one is sexualized bullying, and the last one is unwanted sexualization, receiving unwanted sexual requests, comments, and content. So that was project 1. What we want to really focus on today is the second part, which is Project 2, which is focused on 9 to 12-year-olds, as well as parents of children of all ages. And the reason we applied for this project with the EU was to do 9 to 12-year-olds, because when we were talking to teenagers about online sexual harassment, the message was that we needed to start this work earlier. And when we were talking to educators, the same message was given to us. We needed to, that was partly because the issue was arising at an earlier stage, and we needed to try and influence behaviors in formation at an early stage to set the path in the right direction in relation to what is effectively healthy relationships online. We wanted to focus on parents of all children, 9 to 17-year-olds, because clearly parents and carers have an important role to play. And as we are raising awareness about this issue with educators, we needed to do the same work with parents and carers. So this project has taken the form of a lot of focus groups with children and young people, with parents and carers, with educators. We've done some quant research with parents and carers across the 3 countries that we're talking about. We've also had help from an expert advisory board, where we have had representatives from government, from the hotline in the UK, the IWF, from helplines, from the police, from children's charities, from teachers' unions, who've given up their time to help support this project and to make sure that it is heading in the right direction and addressing the needs that are manifest. But we've also had a youth advisory board who have given up a considerable amount of time to help us with this work, and they've been our critical friends throughout the course of this project. And they've been 9 young people, and they are all teenagers. They're all very busy, and we've been very grateful for the input that they've had with us. And we're going to hear from Anissa, Naya, and Rakaya shortly during the course of this event. So in a moment, we're going to hear from other people, but just first I want to familiarize you with the environment that we're in. So this is a Zoom webinar. There's a Q&A function at the bottom. And when we get to the end of the session, if you click on that, there will be a place where you can post your questions. And I hope we'll have time to get to those. But there'll also be some useful links that we will share through the Q&A. So if you could keep an eye out for that during the course of this event, and then you'll see where the resources and information that we're talking about will appear. So I'm going to hand over now to where we're going to play a short video from Vicky Ford, who's Minister for Children and Families at the Department for Education, who sends her apologies about not being able to be here, but she did send this short video. So if I can hand over to the video now.
Hello. I'm delighted to join you today to take part in the launch of a toolkit created as part of Project deSHAME, designed to encourage young people to report online sexual harassment and online sexual bullying. And I'd like to thank Childnet and everyone else in developing this important toolkit for their hard work over the past 2 years. Recent reports in the media on sexual violence and sexual harassment highlight the importance of young people being confident on how and where to report harassment, and it reminds us that we must continue to do as much as we can to equip children and young people with the skills and knowledge to know how to deal with these issues. And I'm sure you would all agree that there is nothing more important than safeguarding and protecting children. Any form of harassment, violence, or sexual assault is abhorrent and unacceptable anywhere in society, including in our schools and colleges, which should be safe and inclusive environments. We already have a strong and clear framework in place to support schools and colleges via the Keeping Children Safe in Education statutory guidance, which provides detailed guidance about child-on-child sexual violence and sexual harassment, including responding to reports of abuse and protecting victims. And alongside this, we provide detailed advice supporting schools and colleges to understand what child-on-child sexual violence and sexual harassment looks like, how to prevent it, how to respond to reports of it, and how to support victims. But of course, we must continue to consider what more we can do to support schools, parents, and victims on this important matter. And this new toolkit will be a welcome addition in supporting educators, parents, and carers to tackle online sexual harassment and online sexual bullying. We want to support all children and young people to be happy, healthy, and safe. equipping them for adult life and supporting them to engage in an online world safely so that they can make a positive contribution to society. Schools can help to prevent online sexual harassment and online sexual bullying by educating their pupils about acceptable ways to behave online. And the government committed back in the 2017 manifesto to educate today's young people in the harms of the internet and how best to combat them, introducing comprehensive relationships and sex education in all primary and secondary schools to ensure children learn about the risks of the internet, including cyberbullying and online grooming. And through the introduction of compulsory relationships, sex and health education, children will be taught about online relationships, internet safety, online harms, what positive, healthy and respectful online relationships look like, and the effects of their online actions on others, and knowing how to recognise and display respectful behaviour online. These new subjects will also teach pupils how to get help and support for issues that occur online, who to speak to. To help schools to deliver the new subjects well, we've published a suite of training models on gov.uk, alongside statutory guidance, parental guides and advice for schools on effectively engaging parents. And of course, we have previously published guidance to help schools teach their pupils how to stay safe online, which will complement the new compulsory subjects, as well as subjects like citizenship and computing. It will help schools teach children the skills and knowledge they need to use the internet in a safe, considered and respectful way. We've also sent a clear message to schools that bullying, including cyberbullying, is unacceptable. It often has a devastating effect on individuals, harming their education and sometimes resulting in serious and lasting consequences for their mental health. So we're committed to supporting schools to tackle bullying and have put in place a series of measures to support them. This includes making sure head teachers have the power to regulate pupils' conduct when they're not on the school's premises, and we're clear that where bullying outside of school is reported to teachers, it should be investigated and acted on. We've also funded the UK Safer Internet Centre to develop cyberbullying guidance, providing advice for schools on understanding, preventing and responding to cyberbullying, an online safety toolkit helping schools to deliver sessions through PSHE about cyberbullying, peer pressure, sexting. I want to finish by saying that the government cannot tackle this alone, and we're committed to continuing to work with you and other expert organisations to consider what more can be done to prevent all forms of sexual violence and sexual harassment in schools and to support victims when it does happen. So thank you once again.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vicky. Although she can't hear me, it's good that she was able to send that message. Rebecca, can I pass over to you? Rebecca Stimson, Head of Public Policy at Facebook.
Sure. Thank you, Will. And I'll be super quick because I know there's a lot to get through this morning. And I think we just wanted to say, look, we've had a very long partnership with Childnet, and we're really, really happy to have been able to have co-funded the work that you've done over the last few years and also help host this event. We're always looking for ways to make the experience of young people online as safe as it can be. And already there's some stuff that's jumped out at me from this report with the responsibilities I have, such as quite low reporting to social media companies when this kind of thing happens. I think there's some things there for us to take away and think about how to kind of encourage that. But look, just wanted to say again, congratulations to everyone who's been involved in this. It's a really important subject and a really important set of resources and research, which certainly we'll be using in our work going forward. So, but really looking forward to hand back now and hear from all the speakers who've played an active role in it. But well done to everyone involved.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. It's great that you're able to join us. Then, in that case, I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Phoebe Moriarty-Roberts, who's our Acting Education Manager, who's going to talk to 3 of our young people who are part of the Youth Board. Phoebe, can I pass over to you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Yes, we're really lucky to be able to be joined by Anissa and Naya this morning, who are part of our Youth Advisory Board, which was set up specifically for this project. Now, we were also hoping that Rakaya was going to be with us. She's had a few technical problems joining this morning. So who knows, maybe she'll join midway through, which would be fantastic, but she's sent me a few of her kind of answers, things she wanted to share. So as we kind of go along, I'll try and speak for her a little bit and share those too. So I'm just going to be asking a few questions, and we're going to start off with Anissa this morning. And our first question for you, Anissa, is going to be, well, why did you want to join the Youth Advisory Board?
So being part of the Youth Advisory Board meant that I could advocate for something that I was truly passionate in, and whilst being able to make an active difference and one with purpose and impact. And I think we have genuinely achieved that, which I'm very proud of. It was also an experience to work with like-minded people and challenge myself also on a topic which I wasn't so educated on prior to this. It also helped develop my confidence and my understanding of online sexual harassment. Being part of this project has genuinely opened my mind, as well as developed my understanding in what it entails and how to deal with it, and as well as what advice to give to others.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. It's so great to hear those things. And I think we were talking yesterday, weren't we, about how great it was as well that we kind of have youth board members from all over the country. So when we were able to get together for the residential, it was really great to kind of hear lots of different perspectives there as well. Yeah, and Anissa, you've spoken a little bit about kind of why you joined the board, but is there anything that you can share around anything that you've kind of learned along the way, or have any of your perspectives changed?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is the spectrum of people it affects. I think when you think of online sexual harassment, we are almost cultured to think of like teenagers, slightly older, but doing this project, it honestly starts a lot younger. And it's about picking up those small behaviors, which you think, oh, they'll grow out of it, or like, oh, it's okay, they're only little. But it's those little things which develop, and we should encourage them that it's not quite right.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great. I'm going to come over to Naya now, and my next question is around, obviously, this whole toolkit and everything we've been thinking about is about online sexual harassment and online sexual bullying. But what does kind of online sexual harassment mean to you?
So for me, online sexual harassment is just any and all kind of unwanted sexual contact online, but it's not just like the bigger issues, it's more a system of behaviors which uphold the kind of bigger issues. So some of those larger issues could be non-consensual sharing of images, but they're upheld by things like jokes of a sexual nature and unwanted sexual comments.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've kind of got Rakaya's answer in front of me, and it's really similar. So she was talking about things like, you know, online sexual harassment to her is unwanted sexual conduct on any digital platform that consists of inappropriate behavior, unwanted sexually explicit content and language when consent isn't given. So a really kind of clear answer from her there as well. Okay, next I'm going to come to Anissa again. So at what age do you think young people need to be learning about this kind of topic?
I think there is no age to online sexual harassment or sexual harassment in general. And that is one of the biggest misconceptions, trying to put like an age bracket on something that can happen at any time, if I'm honest. Therefore, I think introducing key ideas from a younger age to young people is very, very important. I'm not saying that we should put it out there using big words, big scenarios, thinking worst cases, but from a young age, it wouldn't hurt to start mentioning, oh, online, maybe this isn't correct. If you see this, you should talk to someone. And that will definitely help, I think, decrease cases as they grow up, because they'll have an awareness and understanding from a young age.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Rakaya also talked about how important it was to start having those kind of conversations in the home environment at such a young age as well. And, you know, she kind of said it's important to start them off thinking about that appropriate behavior at such a young age and just start those conversations, which, yeah, I agree is really key. Naya, do you have any thoughts about this one as well?
Similar to what Anissa said, really, it's just a conversation that needs to start as early as possible, kind of surrounding consent. And then over time, you can introduce more complex issues and ideas, but it's much less harmful, and it's much easier to teach kids young than it is to have to unteach them later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a good point. I'm going to stay with you, Naya, because our next question is, well, what have you learnt about this in school?
So for me personally, I was taught very, very little about it in school, if anything. And what we were taught involved quite a lot of harmful victim blaming. It just kind of, there was a sense of fear mongering around online sexual harassment and what it is. And there are a lot of misconceptions that we learn from a very young age. And because schools largely neglect to teach us on it, most of what we know about online sexual harassment and online sexual bullying is from the media. So we have a really skewed response of what it is or how to respond to it. I think we as young people are a lot more mature and capable than people give us credit for, and we deserve to know why online sexual harassment is wrong and how we can prevent and deal with it.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Yeah, Rakaya kind of also answered that one, and she put nothing, absolutely nothing. It has become so much of a taboo topic even to discuss. I've not heard anything at all about this in school. What I have learned about this has been through my peers who have actually experienced it, and there's been a real lack of communication, which I think is a really profound answer there from her as well. So next I'm going to come over to Anissa again. So why is it important to talk about this and actually, you know, cover it at home and in school as well?
I think we're starting to pick up on the topic of communication, and I think it's so important to start talking about it, because by not talking about it, we are almost saying that it's a topic which we should almost be ashamed of, that we shouldn't mention, which is completely wrong. By introducing it and saying that, okay, this is happening, but this is how we go about it, this is examples of it, and I think that will help our own understanding as young people, but also the understanding of parents and carers. Small actions. I remember when we were doing, I think the timeline activity was something we did on the residential. We looked at younger ages, of course, but we looked at things like talking to strangers online. I mean, we've all been told that talking to strangers online is a big no, but young children think it's just like fun and games. And it's small things like sexualized images on the games that people play, something that they don't really think of, but subconsciously we're starting to implement ideas which shouldn't really be there to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Naya, what do you think about this one? Why is it important that we talk about this?
I think rape culture is like absolutely endemic in so many secondary schools across the country, as we've heard quite a lot about in the news recently with the Whitehall investigation. So it's really important that schools are actively kind of taking a role students both now and also in the future as they go through their lives. But it's also evident in a lot of the media that we consume, kind of like Anissa was saying. So by schools and parents educating young people on these things in schools and homes, we're able to recognise harmful rhetoric in the media and in our real life social circles. And so we can deal with potentially harmful or toxic behaviour at a much earlier stage. And for the most part, then we can prevent a lot of these issues from happening in the first place. I think it's really clear from the past that being reactive to online sexual harassment isn't working, and that we need to take preventative measures in education to protect the upcoming generations.
Brilliant. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And, you know, we've spoken a lot together about how important it is that we do talk about this and that we are educating, you know, young people, but we're educating each other as well. But what are the barriers for young people in actually speaking up about this and speaking to adults about it? Can I start with Anissa for this one?
There are so many physical and emotional barriers when it comes to young people not being able to speak up to adults. And I think to begin with, there's the social stigma, that it might be something perhaps we are too young to be experiencing or we shouldn't be experiencing. So there's a lot of miscommunication on what online sexual harassment is for young people. And I think along with that comes the embarrassment and the feeling of humiliation of something which they are the victim to, and honestly shouldn't feel responsible for how they are feeling. And I think somewhere along the line, as young people, we almost decide that it's better not to say, it's better not to speak up, because we might be wrong and it might not be online sexual harassment, or it might just be too embarrassing to say. So I think that's something that we need to deal with. It's the constant worry of speaking up and telling someone about it and how to phrase it correctly without sounding silly, or just ultimately feeling that you might be wasting someone else's time. And all these thoughts all correlate with the theme of self-doubt, which is so prominent with cases of online sexual harassment, self-doubt and embarrassment. So I think somewhere along the way, avoiding these conversations becomes easier.
Thank you. Yeah, Naya, what are your thoughts on this one as well?
I think in general, like especially in the UK, we don't talk about these sorts of things whatsoever. They're very kind of like taboo. We just don't speak on them. And so if you are a victim of online sexual harassment or coercive behaviour, it can be really hard to be the one to start the conversation. And also there's a huge fear of being blamed for kind of your part in what happened, even though, you know, it's not your fault. And I think that's really amplified by the language we use around online sexual harassment and sexual assault, which kind of creates a stigma around the issues and makes it harder to come forward. And I also think that from a very young age, the things that we would consider sexual harassment are very normalized and are almost seen as part of growing up in the world of social media. And I think we have to take measures to educate people on what sexual harassment really is.
Yeah, definitely. And Rakaya also said for this one, she kind of felt that sometimes for young people, there could be like a lack of trust between them and their actual parents and carers as well. And there's a real fear that if they kind of went to their parents about this, or even a teacher, that they could get shamed for what's happened. That's similar to what you were saying, Anissa, as well. So she was kind of saying how it's so important that we need to build that kind of trust and have a real foundation of trust with kind of parents and teachers as well, in order to be able to speak about it. So we're soon going to be watching a short film that has been made for parents and carers, and the Youth Advisory Board were a big part of kind of the initial ideas and kind of feeding into the messaging within the film as well. So before we watch that together, I've kind of just got one more question, and that is, well, how can parents and carers support children and young people? And we'll start with you again, Anissa.
I think communication is the biggest thing here, to be able to listen in an environment where you don't feel judged and you feel comfortable. For the person that you're speaking to, be family, teachers, or just like an older sibling even, to be open-minded about what the young person might be feeling, how they might have felt through it, and how their worries going forward. I think it takes a lot. It takes so much for a young person to speak up about something such as online sexual harassment, to be able to confront the idea of what is happening. So I think it's, even if they can't identify it themselves, it's about encouraging them that it's okay and reassuring them. And I think another key thing is, again, appreciation and understanding for what they have been through, showing that you are there for them. And I think the film that we're going to see perfectly encapsulates that. It shows the different doubts, the thoughts that young people have, the embarrassment, thoughts of humiliation. And then ultimately, when talking to someone, they feel so relieved. It's so comforting to finally be able to say it out loud and know that someone is there for you. And it just makes the situation 10 times better and makes you feel a lot more comfortable and that it will truly be okay.
Yeah, thanks, Anissa. You know, you really get across there how powerful it is actually just to be able to speak to someone about this and get some support. Naya, to kind of finish off, what do you think?
I think like the most important thing,
I think Naya's just cut off a little bit there. No worries. There's always technical problems. You are a little bit back again, so go for it again.
Okay, yeah. I think the most important thing is just your child's well-being in these situations. Like going through something like this, especially at such like a key time in your development, it can be so damaging for a child or a young adult's mental health. And so as a parent, it's really important that you are able to kind of push aside your own fear or judgment or shame, and just be there to support your child's mental well-being. And I think that is one of the key points that is evident in the film, really, that just being there is what your child really needs.
Thank you. Yeah, just thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us this morning. You know, your answers are kind of just so profound, and sharing your experiences is just so important. So thank you. So in a second, we're going to watch the video just to remind people that we do have the question and answer kind of chat there, and hopefully Anissa and I are going to be able to stay on the call. So if you did have any questions specifically kind of for the Youth Advisory Board, feel free to put them in the chat there, and we'll try and get to those. But for now, let's watch this parents' film together. Thank you.
I want to tell you, but I feel too scared to say what's happened.
I want to tell you, but I don't want to let you down.
I want to tell you, but I don't want to interrupt what you're doing.
I want to tell you, but I'm worried you'll stop me going online.
I want to tell you that I've been really hurt by people I know.
I want to tell you something.
This is online sexual harassment.
Would you be there for me?
Step up, speak up, and let's put an end to online sexual harassment. For more information, go to deSHAME.eu.
Okay, it's over to me now. Thank you very much, Phoebe, Anissa and Naya, and it was lovely to still be able to hear from Rakaya, even though she wasn't able to connect with us today, unfortunately. So hi, my name is Tom Pinfield. I'm an acting education manager at Childnet, and I'm going to talk you through the resources we've created. And hopefully share my screen now. Okay, hopefully you can see that. As I'm speaking, you should be able to see the links appear magically in the Q&A. If not, we will share them by email afterwards. Please do download them and have a look as I am talking or after the launch. The first one is the role and importance of parents and carers, and this is actually for educators. We know this is a new or challenging topic for many families, and we wanted educators to know how best to support them. So this short document brings together everything you can see here, from our focus groups, interviews, our online research across the 3 countries. And in it, you'll find the perspectives of 9 to 12-year-olds, 13 to 17-year-olds, educators and parents and carers themselves, as well as key conclusions and recommendations. Next, we have the work that I've talked about also fed into the resources we created for parents and carers. And you can see some do's and don'ts that came out of a session that we did with the young people, and that was really instrumental in making the film. And the film is part of a package of resources that we've created to engage, inform and support parents and carers. And as you've heard, the film was created around the thoughts and words shared by the Youth Advisory Board that was so lovely, so well described by Anissa. We wanted to make a short film with a big impact to make parents and carers aware of online sexual harassment and the impact it can have on a young person. The film highlights some of the challenges and the boundaries that can prevent a young person from speaking up. And most importantly, we wanted parents and carers to look at our other resources and encourage them to talk to their children about their online lives. In the leaflets, we give more information, so around what online sexual harassment is and forms it can take, before giving practical advice about how best to respond if a child needs support. And online sexual bullying and harassment is a difficult thing for young people to recognise and talk about. So we wanted to encourage parents and carers to be regularly having an open dialogue with their children about their lives online. And if that's happening regularly, it increases the opportunities for a young person to seek help and to do so sooner. There are leaflets for foster carers, parents of 9 to 12-year-olds and parents of 13 to 17-year-olds. And the leaflets also signpost to our web pages for further information on the kinds of online sexual harassment young people might be witnessing or experiencing. And we also use that to answer key questions like what happens, what are the signs to look out for, and how to respond if your child is experiencing or has done this to somebody else. Now, this is what Anissa was talking about earlier. So, so before I talk about the resources for educators, I want to show you this. And in the activities, they're given pieces of paper with major milestones and events that young people experience growing up. And as you can see, the 9 to 12 age range is particularly busy, has a huge amount of things that young people are experiencing, things like getting their first phone, hearing sexual language or rumours of people sending nude images. And many will move from primary to secondary school in this age. So when the young people did this activity, I think it really reinforced the importance of this work and these resources. So what have we created? Well, there is a teaching guide, 3 lesson plans, quick activities, and a quiz. And with any luck, you should soon see a link to these, the way to find the page to find all of these resources. You'll see that we refer to online sexual bullying in the content for educators and introduce it as a particular type of cyberbullying with the children and young people. And we use this terminology and have created age-appropriate activities and scenarios throughout. Now I'll explain that a bit further on. Now we know that online sexual bullying can be a daunting topic, but we also found that educators really wanted to do something about it. So inside the teaching guide, it not only discusses how best to deliver the lessons, but also explains why 9 to 12-year-olds should learn about this, as the Youth Advisory Board were talking about, and how to handle any disclosures that may arise. And we wanted educators tackling this to have the support they needed, whether it be in being able to ask a bit more or find out a bit more about what 9 to 12-year-olds enjoy online and what they experience online, to making the case to their head teacher about why they want to teach these lessons, or writing to parents and carers. Now I'm going to talk about the lesson plans and activities. You might have noticed that the title is just a joke. And this was a theme that came through strongly in the focus groups with young people. This behaviour can be often regarded or explained away as just a joke when we know the hurt and upset it causes. There are 3 lessons in total, including a lesson which helps to create a safe space for discussion. And this is often needed in topics like this. And with the 3 lesson plans, quick activities and quiz, we wanted educators to have the flexibility to cover the topic, whether they had 20 minutes, an afternoon, or were planning 4 or 5 lessons. And a key was for the lessons to be age appropriate. And that is why the topic is introduced as framed as a particular type of cyberbullying. Basing it around something they're familiar with was then and then using that to explore what lies behind certain comments and how they can make people feel was crucial. Each lesson was designed to be accessible, adaptable with a variety of activities. And we made sure there are positive examples of behaviour to make sure that we recognise, sorry, I'm going to go back one slide. people recognise and do enjoy going online and highlight kind and respectful actions, because a lot of what they do online is really positive. And since the focus of the project is peer-to-peer, we wanted to give them lots of opportunities to talk and discuss. So we had role play included. There are also games like this where we have the dice and snakes and ladders game too, that was very popular, which I've accidentally shown you already, which I'll talk about now. So here it is. In the games, the pupils roll a dice, as you can probably imagine, and move around the boards. When they land on a question mark, they pick up a card and read it out. And a positive example allows them to move further up the board, and a negative example sends them backwards. And I think this task really encapsulates the lessons really well. It explores what can be a difficult issue in a fun and engaging way. The scenarios are age appropriate, with both positive and negative examples of online behaviour. It can be adapted to the needs of the class, because the blue cards are fine for all and the pink ones are kind of an extension. So educators can use their professional judgment. They can be used for an upper age range, for example, or a teacher might choose to include some or none, or use them later to revisit the topic when the pupils are a little bit older, perhaps. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have the quiz. And this is a really good tool for reviewing the topic and seeing what the pupils have learnt and what they think. I'll show you just one of the examples. It should load up in a moment. So in the quiz, the pupils are presented with a situation and they need to think about what advice they would give. And again, this is a very flexible activity. This could be the time for a discussion and even writing some advice. Alternatively, the different options could be revealed like we've got there, and people can talk them through. We could be in groups or a whole class, or they can have a vote. And the best response is revealed with a short explanation, and then it moves on. Okay, so please do share those links. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment before I hand over to Joe. So please do share those links, look at those links, have a look at the resources and share them with any colleagues or organisations who might be interested in tackling this very important issue. I'm now going to hand over to Joe Bryce, who will talk about the evaluation of the resources we've created, and I'll quickly try and move over to her slide. So I'll hand over to Joe and then share screen again in a moment.
Okay, thank you for being available, everyone, to come and hear about our resources, and thanks so much to the young people for their input throughout the project and for their brilliant insight into this issue today. Speaks so much better than data does or anything we as adults can say. So if we could have the first slide, please, Tom.
I don't know why my computer's being like this, but it's being very good. My cursor has completely disappeared. Right, there we go. Right, so I will share now. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Okay, so my name's Joe Bryce. I'm from the University of Central Lancashire, and I'm just going to briefly say a few words about the evaluation study that we did. So first slide, please, Tom. Okay, so what we really wanted to do with the evaluation was just basically to get some feedback from our key audiences on the content of the resources, but also to investigate a little bit the impact of the resources on awareness of the issue, knowledge about what constitutes online sexual bullying, and also reporting behaviour and help-seeking behaviour. So 3 schools took part in the evaluation, 1 in each of the 3 countries, and essentially all of those resources that Tom's just described were delivered over a certain period of time by the schools. The young people who took part in the classes and the activities completed a questionnaire after each of the sessions, and then a teacher who delivered all of those resources completed a questionnaire at the very end. For the parents and carers resources, we recruited participants from our online social media platforms and contacts, and we asked them a set of questions on a questionnaire once they'd actually watched the film and actually read the leaflets. And obviously we had ethical approval for all of our data collection. Next slide, please. So I'm just briefly going to talk you through some of the feedback that we got, starting with the young people. So the young people gave us very positive feedback on all of the resources. So this slide relates to the lesson that focused on online bullying about appearance, body and gender. And as you can see from the figures that are included on the slide, we saw a very, very high level of young people saying that they found the lesson to be interesting, that they felt they learned something from the lesson, and that they learned things around the gender dynamics of online bullying being problematic, and importantly that they learned how and where to seek help for any experiences that were like this. And we also gave the participants some free response questions on the questionnaire and asked them what the best thing was about the session. And you can see there people talked about the importance of learning about the impact of these behaviours on young people, realising actually that without knowing in the past that young people themselves have done this and engaged in that behaviour. So that's a really good learning moment for young people. Learning to seek help and learning about the behaviours being not something to engage in when you're older. And a lot of the feedback was also very positive about the group and the peer-related dimensions of the activity. So it was getting young people in that space where they could reflect on these issues and discuss them together. Next slide, please. So the second lesson focused on the issue around jokes online and upsetting content. Again, we saw similarly high levels of young people finding the lessons to be interesting, to have learned something, to learn about how things that may seem funny can and maybe sent as a joke, for example, can be very upsetting, and about learning about the types of behaviour that can be problematic. And then when we asked young people about the best things about the session, again, we saw people reflecting on their own behaviour, saying that they were learning what to do if they actually had similar experiences themselves, and realising again that maybe they had engaged in some problematic behaviour themselves. And also we had a lot of comments saying it was fun, they worked in groups, they learned in a different way. And I think that's really important, is giving that space to reflect and engage in those activities. So next slide, please. So the teacher feedback fed and dovetailed very well to the feedback that the young people gave us. The teachers told us that they found that the teaching guide provided that appropriate support and allayed maybe some anxieties around talking about this particular issue. They found that the specific delivery instructions for each of the sessions was clear and easy to follow, that it helped students to recognise the behaviours that constituted online sexual harassment and the impact that it could have on other people, and that they learned about how to report and seek help, that the session activities were really engaging and enjoyable for the young people, that they really, really warmed to the topic and really got involved in thinking about these issues. The only thing that the teachers kind of said they would like would be perhaps more time to cover the included activities and discussions, because young people sort of got so engaged with them. So we did make some changes to the resources in terms of kind of the spread of activities across different lessons, etc., etc. So next slide, please. So in terms of the parents and carers feedback from the film, you've all seen the film now, and hopefully you related to it in the same way as our parents did. It's a very powerful film, I think. It shows a very realistic situation and kind of really hopefully connects emotionally with parents. It really puts them into that situation to think about what their children might be experiencing, and it really effectively shows those barriers to seeking help that Anissa and Mia mentioned previously. And it really does what we think is challenge parents and carers to be available, to make time to find out about the issue and to talk to their children about it in a preventative way rather than waiting until problems have happened. In terms of the leaflets, also lots and lots of positive feedback. Parents found them to be clear and accessible. They contained about the right amount of information. They particularly liked the list of do's and don'ts, thought that was a really, really good starting point for them to think about this issue, and thought that it really reinforced that film message about being available and talking to young people about this particular issue. Final slide, please. So that's a really, really brief and quick view of everything. The impact report is available online, so there's a longer version of all this that you can read and see more quotes, etc., etc. But we think that on the basis of the evaluation that we did, we've got an engaging and comprehensive set of resources. The input of young people into developing those, both from our advisory groups and from young people who took part in the research, was very important. The resources are interactive and engaging, and they give young people that space to discuss online sexual bullying in a safe way, an age-appropriate way, and perhaps to have discussions that they've never, ever had the opportunity to do before. And we're really pleased to see that it did increase knowledge around help seeking for these issues, and that feeds in then to the aims of the parents and carers resources, which again we think are a very strong starting point for parents to be aware that they need to educate themselves about that issue, to find out more using our other resources and the resources that are available from other stakeholders, and to discuss that with children. So, as I said, the impact report is available. Please go and have a look at that and use our resources, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. That was very good. Thank you, Tom, and also thank you to the young people and Phoebe for that really insightful panel. In fact, looking at the Q&A, and I encourage everybody to have a look at the Q&A and do put questions in. We've only got a few minutes left. We'll try and do our very best, but there's also all the links to the articles, the resources, and the video content that we've mentioned in that. There's a couple of things which are just to address immediately from the Q&A. Were there any boys on the Youth Advisory Board? Yes, there were, but there just weren't any that were able to join us this morning. So we've had 3 members, and you heard everybody mention there was a youth residential all the way back in the end of 2019 when such things were possible. But the board have been meeting every 6 weeks, having virtual catch-ups and discussing this topic and other areas about online life in relation to lockdown, which have been enormously useful and insightful. So the time the young people have given up, boys and girls, have been really useful. Now, we have taken a recording of the session, so of the seminar. So we'll see what video content we can use afterwards. There was another comment from someone saying how inspired they've been from the comments from the young people on the board. Barbara Bound has asked about victim blaming, and I think we heard that absolutely loud and clear from the young person during the panel. And that was certainly, there's a whole lesson dedicated to that topic in the part 1 for the teenage Step Up, Speak It Up toolkit. So tackling that issue is a really key part of dealing with online sexual harassment. Now, I'm not going to be able to get through all the different questions, but there was a question which I would like to just to share out wider, which was particularly thinking about everyone's invited testimonials and what the panel's thoughts are about this initiative and what's going on. I don't know if certainly I can share from our perspective how inspiring it is to see young people take the opportunity to have voice and to share what is something that really does need to be spoken about. But I'd be interested to know if either of our young people would be able to talk about what their thoughts are about this movement that seems to have started.
For me, I think it marks a really exciting, almost cultural shift around the way that we speak about online sexual harassment in general, especially kind of amongst young people. And I think it's marking a really important moment, and it's providing a great opportunity to move forward with the way we discuss sexual harassment, and we need to kind of grab it by the horn, so to speak, and really.
Yeah, no, you're still there. You're good. Brilliant, brilliant. So we'll grab it by the horns is where I heard to, which I think is a really powerful statement. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Because you just froze at the last moment.
Yeah, just kind of concluded really. Just grab it by the horns and take it as an opportunity to kind of step forward in the way we speak about it.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you. Anissa, did you want to say anything about this?
I completely agree. I think it's just the opportunity to change what we have learned. And I think for the newer, younger, upcoming generation, we can learn from our mistakes and move forward. And I think instead of dwelling on the past and what we could have changed, let's actually put that change into practice.
That's really good. Very, very insightful. Thank you both. I think it's some of the questions. I mean, if we talk about this, obviously the testimonials are not just about the online abuse and harassment that's taking place. It's covering much broader than that. And the work that we do as part of this work has to find its place within that. Quite often we find with the online bullying or whatever, we've had to add the cyber onto existing issues. And here we have something which we will be very actively promoting the resources that we have, which form part of the solution to this, the preventative element, the longer term building blocks that we need to be putting in place to better support children and young people in this space. There's obviously guidance for senior leadership and teachers to give them confidence to be able to talk about these issues. But clearly there are more immediate responsive issues that schools are needing to grapple with at the moment in the light of this. Now, we've got, scanning through the questions. I've been crying out for a project like this. I work with young people with with autism, and this would be important to work to support in that space from Adrienne. Adrienne, that's a very important point. And Emma Barton talking about that. I'm scanning through the questions and I'm trying to see what else I can pick out. The video is available online, Christine, it's there. And please do circulate this. I mean, I really want to call upon everybody in the school. We have these resources, they're free for people to use. They're accessible at the website deSHAME.eu, which takes you to a part of the Childnet website where you can find everything. And the more we kind of spread the word about this, then the better. And I think now is particularly the moment for us to be looking to do that. So we are looking to promote this work, but the more that you can do to help support us with that, then so much the better. We have just a couple of minutes left. I think I might just round it up so people can have just a moment before, I'm sure, their next meeting, and the young people can go off to their busy days too. But I just want to say a word of thanks to everybody. I want to say thank you to the young people for giving up your time. So it's been brilliant to listen to Anissa and Naya this morning. I think all of you would agree that they've done an amazing job in articulating what is a really sensitive and difficult topic. And they've done so really eloquently. And I think that will be of great value to everybody on the call. So with very sincere thanks to you both for joining us, and Rakai, unfortunately, couldn't. And for the whole board for giving up your time and supporting this work. And really, we are all enormously grateful for you for doing that. So thank you. I also want to say thanks to Rebecca and for Facebook support and helping us to run this event today. That's been absolutely brilliant. And obviously this project has been funded with EU funding. And I think it's important to recognize that this project is running in Denmark and in Hungary, where in fact many of the issues that we're finding in the UK are so similar to what's happening in the experience of children and young people in other countries. This is not a UK only issue. We have obviously got a big noise around this subject here in the UK, but this is a global issue that we need to be raising awareness of and better equipping people to support in this space. I know that when we run Safer Internet Day and we talk about online safety and schools talk about online safety, it empowers young people to come forward and talk about these issues. So we know that 41% of schools that run Safer Internet Day activities receive disclosures of potential online safeguarding issues. We would really want to emphasize this should be the same across broader issues too. If the school has confidence to talk about online sexual harassment with their children and young people, and if parents have the confidence to address this topic with them, then we are going to be able to much better unblock those barriers for young people to come forward and talk about something which really has a profound impact on young people, either whether it affects them directly on the receiving end of online sexual harassment and online sexual bullying, or witnessing that happening to their peers. So many thanks to everybody. I'll call this meeting to a close. Get on with your busy days, and if you can help us share those resources, that would be amazing. Many thanks.